I just made it to Watersong Farms in Manitoba, near Winnipeg, and totally blown away. It's so beautiful. The owner Rudy just took me around for a tour of the trout farm, the Steelhead farm that they've got, and it's not what I expected. I was expecting ponds. There's no ponds. They do it indoors, which is super interesting. Totally organic, a much more ecologically friendly way to do things as well. No chemicals, no antibiotics, totally natural. And it's such an amazing product that they've got. And this place is just stunning. But here I've taken a bit of some drone footage to show you what it's like on the farm around there. Enjoy. As I was saying, the trout are actually kept indoors in that last big barn on the left there. So we'll have a little bit of a tour of that in a second. This is actually where the steelhead are kept. The whole system is designed like a river, so it goes round, I guess in a horseshoe sort of shape, and the trout are kept in various stages of their development and in separate pens. And then, like I said, it's all natural, no chemicals or antibiotics or anything like that. It's all done as organically as possible. It's fantastic. Start off obviously with the potatoes. I got some nice yellow potatoes from a farmer's market. You want to keep them quite chunky, because you want the potatoes to be not dry, but you don't want to have watery mashed potatoes, and we're not doing mashed potatoes anyways, and you'll see. So potatoes cut up into nice big chunks, as you see there. A clove of garlic goes in, and I got some smoked whiskey salt. Whiskey barrel salt that I'll use to season those potatoes with as well. They give a real nice earthy flavor. So next we'll move on to getting our Petit Pois à la Francaise ready. So you can see I've got like a nice rasher of nice thickly smoked real bacon, I call it. Now cut that as finely as you can. This knife's great for that kind of stuff. And we've got a shallot there. Normally you'd have pearl onions, but I didn't have any pearl onions on hand, and I got these again from local market. So slice those up, get your bacon ready, and in it goes into a pan, or a pot I should say. And we want to cook these sort of over a medium heat, I'd say. We don't want them to brown too quickly, but we want the fat to render, because that's going to kind of form part of like the glaze for the whole dish to begin with. So Petit Pois à la Francaise is it's bacon, pearl onions typically, or shallots, and it's got lettuce in it. I know it sounds weird, it's very not a North American thing, and fresh peas, and a few other little bits and bobs. I didn't have. You could use iceberg lettuce. You could use a bunch of different kinds of lettuce. I had rocket or arugula on hand, so that's what I used. So yeah, I'm just showing you want to get that nice and caramelized, but not cooking too quickly. You want the juices to stick to the bottom of the pan. And there I just put a nice little knob of butter in to help things along, because we're going to add a couple more things in soon. So yeah, we'll render that fat down. We'll get some good caramelization happening. We'll bring the flavors out of the garlic that I threw in there as well. And we'll just let that keep cooking down. Like I said, I used arugula, but you can use chicory or endive, whatever you want to call it. These are some fresh peas that I got. Chuck those in. Now we don't really want to cook them through. We just want to give them a little bit of color, not color, but we'll just bring out the flavors of them. We don't want to have them boiling. We just want to have them nice and sautéed. bit of fresh thyme as well. Sorry, and the garlic. I didn't throw in garlic earlier. That's okay. And then we'll deglaze that with a little bit of white wine. And we'll get those juices off the bottom of the pan. Now I'm just chopping up some fresh parsley there. We'll keep that for later. Some of it will go into the peas, some of it will go into the potatoes. So we'll just split that up as we need to. There we go. So that's all cooking. Potatoes are cooking on the back. We want this to have... Normally this can be quite a wet dish. There's a little bit more liquid in them, but I'd kept them specifically just not dry, but just not like soupy at all. So here's our beautiful steelhead that was harvested that morning that when I was there. We're just going to cut off this fatty bit because you won't typically get that in a restaurant. And when I look at that piece of that fillet of fish, I see 2 beautiful fine dining pieces and 1 bistro piece, if that makes sense. So we want to get like 2 nice even pieces from that top fillet and from the middle, and then that last piece is kind of what you'd serve in a bistro, or typically what you'd be the cheaper cut that you get at home. But yeah, you've got those 2 beautiful fillets there. So there's our potatoes. Fish is cut. Our potatoes are now ready. They're just cooked all the way through. Very important step that like a lot of home cooks don't do is put it back on the stove and dry it out. Next, you want to put it through a food mill or a potato ricer, because you don't want any lumps, because it makes such a big difference to the final texture of the whole dish. Once that's done, good old knob of butter in there, because, well, this is French cooking and that's what we do. You can put some olive oil in it if you like as well, if that's what you prefer. Or a little bit of both, whatever. But you want to have just enough. Like you don't want to be super greasy and buttery, unless you want to, of course. But I don't like to overdo it. There's enough butter in this dish because it is a French tip. This is a classical French dish. It's not. It's not like it's not a complicated dish, but there's a lot of technical things involved in each stage of cooking. Like the potatoes need to be done the correct way, the Petit Pois need to be done in the correct way, and of course the fish needs to be cooked properly as well. Like I said, not complicated, but technical. You need to be able to cook things properly. So those things are ready. We've put them on the back burner. We put our parsley in the potatoes as you saw. Then we're going to just season the steelhead with a bit of that smoked salt again, or that smoked whiskey salt again, and a bit of pepper. And I'm using a cast iron pan with a little bit of olive oil just to start it off, but just to keep that heat nice and even through it. You want to have like a medium high heat, because we're gonna start the skin side down, because I want to get that skin nice and crispy. So you can see I've thrown in a bit of thyme, another clove of garlic. We can leave the skin on, that's fine. And then we're going to put our steelhead in, like I said, skin down, because we're going to get this cooking crispy and nice and brown. So once they go in, leave them. A lot of people are tempted to start moving them around and doing stuff. If you do that, you run the risk of the skin getting stuck or coming off. Just let it cook. Let it do its job. And what we're going to do then, once it's started moving, because I don't want to do this too early, that's why I did the olive oil. We're going to throw in a few knobs of butter and baste it like you see in every cooking show that's on television. People are always basting their fish or their scallops or whatever, or their steak or anything. But I wanted to get that skin started first before I added that butter in, because otherwise the butter is just going to brown or burn. So you can see the first little bit's gone in there, and I'm just sort of testing the waters there, and I'll put a little bit more shortly. But what that's doing is right now we're cooking off that garlic in the butter. We're cooking off the thyme in the butter. So we're seasoning up that butter with those flavors right now, and then we can start gently basting it. And you can see I need a little bit more there to do it effectively. But also I just wanted to see how that I wanted to see how hot that pan was, because I think I gauged it about right. But there we go. There's our next knob of butter in, and that should give us plenty now. But if you need a little bit more, just put in a little bit more butter to flavor, to baste that fish and flavor it. Just keep an eye on your heat. That's really important. You don't want to cook it too quickly. You don't want to brown the skin. You just want, you do want to brown the skin. You don't want to burn it and have it really uneven. But again, so for the next probably 7 or 8 minutes, just continue basting it. That's why I've not really cut or fast forwarded this very much. I wanted you to see a lot more in real time what I'm actually doing. Because this is a delicate fish. I mean, you could easily substitute salmon for this. I didn't mention, but this is because they are related. And yeah, this is probably a lot more delicate in flavor and a lot more delicate. So we want to take care of this. We want to cook it gently, and make sure that we're doing things properly and not overdoing it. So we'll leave that keep cooking. So on the back burner, as we said, we've got our potatoes are now ready. Our Petit Pois are just about ready. We want to finish them off with that arugula that I've got set aside, or rocket, or whatever you want to call it. We just want to keep that set there. So once everything else is done, we'll put the fish over to rest, and then we'll finish that off. See, now you see that skin? It's a very important stage. You see, I'm not scared to flip this with my spoon because I know that the flesh is firm and it's partially cooked through right now. So you see that skin's nice and brown and a little bit crispy. That's exactly what we want. So what we're doing now is we're going to cook it on the other side. We're not going to mess around with it too much. We're just going to let it cook through. And like you saw me do there, I just seasoned the skin side now as well. And then when we're done, when it's done, we're going to flip it. See, that tail piece, because it's a lot thinner than the other two fillet pieces, it's going to be done way sooner than the rest of them. And you can see me checking it right now. To see how that's done, how cooked it is, because I don't want to cook that. If you do have pieces that are irregular, no matter what you're cooking, they're not going to cook at the same time. Make sure you take out the smaller piece first, which I'm doing there. And you can see now I'm testing it with my finger. You see how it's just made that indentation? It's cooked through now. It's not bouncing back. But you want it to, ideally, and you'll see in the final photograph, you want to cook this fish so it's just translucent. Just translucent. You don't want to have it absolutely cooked through, because it's going to continue to cook through once you've taken it off the heat. Now this we're ready to go for the final stage of these ones. I didn't flip the tail piece because that one I used the next day in a salad, and these fillets I was having for my dinner. So that final flip, just to give that skin a bit more of a freshen up and a crispiness. Then we'll take it off and we'll let that rest. Put those aside. We'll put our Petit Pois back on. If you need to, if it looks a bit dry to you, put another little knob of butter in it and a splash of wine, but make sure you just cook it out. But mine, it's hard to tell on camera, but it was just exactly how I wanted it. So I heated it through, get that up to temperature, and what I'm doing and what I wanted to do was, like, typically you're not going to crush these, but I kind of like mushy peas. I kind of like that kind of thing. So I just gave them, but not fully, I just gave it a little bit of a smush, pick out the garlic and the thyme, which is not a big deal. Then I threw in the arugula or rocket, and then we'll just cook that through a little bit, release those flavors and wilt it. But like I said, you don't want to overdo it, because you don't want to have soggy, mushy rocket. So there we go. That's what it looks like. Beautiful colors, beautiful smells, beautiful flavors. Now we'll just finish warming through our potatoes. If you feel like you need a little bit more olive oil, if you need a little bit more butter, add it, but I didn't think so. So plate up time. We're getting exciting now. A little bit of a large quenelle, or like an egg-shaped dollop of potato. I didn't have the right spoon. That's why it didn't come out as nice as I wanted it to be. But I didn't really have that in my arsenal. I'll have to pick one up someplace. So anyways, Petit Pois go down, and then we're going to put the fish on top of that, and that's about it. It's a very simple dish. Beautiful, simple flavors. Like, the quality of everything there speaks for itself, and you don't want to go messing around with it too much, and I don't think we did. I think we were very honest to everything we did there and kept it simple. So there we go. You can put a sprig of thyme. It's really old school. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Anyways, enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please subscribe, like, and we'll see you soon.